In 9 ABY, Grand Admiral Thrawn was waging a devastating campaign against the New Republic. His blitz from the unknown region had pushed the nascent government back onto its heels. The greatest of the Grand Admirals initially utilized a rebel-style stateless strategy, focusing on hit-and-run attacks and raids. This forced the New Republic to spread their military forces out across the galaxy. The worry was that with too many undefended attacks, member worlds would lose faith in the New Republic and would rejoin the Empire. However, after capturing the lion's share of the Katana fleet, Thrawn shifted his focus to reclaiming territory and further re-energizing the Imperial war machine. However, to fuel this next stage of his campaign, Thrawn Naruto had to secure resources, while also keeping his fleet on the move and striking back against the New Republic. This brings us to Ukio, which, according to the last command, by the time of the Thrawn Campaign was one of the top 5 producers of foodstuffs within the New Republic. What's more, Ukio had heavily developed defense infrastructure, including a planetary shield, ground-based heavy cannons, and several large military installations. Anyone in possession of Ukio with its planetary infrastructure intact could hold it against all but a large planetary invasion. Obviously, this was a goal of Thrawn's. However, at least according to Captain Pelion and Luke Skywalker, conventional wisdom held that it was basically impossible to capture a planet without seriously damaging the shields. The options were, first, in the case where the planetary shield didn't stretch across the whole planet, to land troops outside and wage a drawn-out ground war, or to bombard the shields from orbit, both of which typically resulted in the loss of the precious, expensive, and rare shield generators. Another option was to starve the planet out with a blockade. Even on planets like Coruscant, this took a long time, and Ukio was not only self-sufficient, but a heavy food exporter, so this wasn't feasible. So it's sort of a catch-22. To actually take the planet, you have to destroy that which makes it so valuable, and the New Republic had the exact same issue when trying to capture Imperial Center. However, if there was any being in the galaxy who could change conventional military wisdom, it was Thrawn, and he had secured assets which would allow him to do so. First, over 150 dreadnoughts of the Katana fleet powered by Sparti-created clones. Second, a cache of rare Imperial cloaking tech from the Mount Tanta storehouse, with 23 cloaking units fitted for capital ships. Finally, a clone of the Dark Jedi Master Jorah Sabayoth, an expert practitioner of battle meditation. All of this brings us to the Battle of Ukio itself. To keep the New Republic frazzled, Thrawn launched attacks on several planets as he moved a portion of his fleet, made up of 2 Imperial Star Destroyers, including the Chimera, and 10 Katana fleet dreadnoughts into the Ukio system. Ahead of his fleet were covertly disguised freighters, which by all purposes were simple civilian vessels. However, not only were they under Imperial control, but using tow cables, they also pulled 4 cloaked dreadnoughts. As the fleet moved into position, the Ukio shield began to close, but allowed a small portion to remain open so that any civilian or merchant vessels could get behind the shield and be protected from the fleet. Unbeknownst to the Ukians, this included the Imperial freighters and, more importantly, the cloaked dreadnoughts. The freighters detached the capital ships and moved to ground, while the dreadnoughts moved into position within the shield, but in high orbit. At this point, Thrawn threatened the Ukians, who refused to lower their shield, but he responded with a genius trick. Using the battle meditation of Sabayoth, he fired at the planetary shields from his Star Destroyer. As the turbolaser blasts harmlessly collided with the shields, through the use of the Force, Sabayoth coordinated the efforts of the in-shield dreadnoughts and had them fire at targets on the ground. The timing was so impeccable that it looked like Thrawn hadn't hit the shield, but actually had bombarded the planet, bypassing the shield directly. It took only 2 targeted strikes for Ukio to surrender, ground-based facilities, shield generators, and agricultural assets intact. From that point on, the only concern of Thrawn was making sure landing Imperial vessels didn't actually collide with the dreadnoughts. This was important because this wasn't a one-off trick, and he was prepared to use this across the galaxy. However, his ploy worked so well that he didn't even need to, as New Republic and neutral worlds capitulated to Imperial rule because of a new, feared superweapon. Combined with shipyards which were now beginning to pump out new Imperial Star Destroyers, his portion of the Katana fleet, and his use of Sabaoth, cloning technology, and cloaking, these new military, industrial, and agricultural centers powered the next stages of Thrawn's campaign. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more. Is there a question you'd like me to answer in a future video? Is there a battle or an element of lore that you'd like to see me break down? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments section. Today's question of the day comes from Robin McCormick, who asks whether there's any chance that Snoke came from outside the Star Wars galaxy, and personally, I think there's a very high chance. We know that he at least somewhat rescued the First Order after they ran and hid in the unknown regions, and what's more, Aftermath talks a lot about some dark presence from outside the galaxy, or at least at the edge of the galaxy, calling to Palpatine. Now, whether this is Snoke or not, I'm not sure, but we do know that Palpatine went to great lengths to try to figure out what was going on, including massive exploration attempts, the creation of the observatories, and much, much more. That being said, based on how Snoke was killed in Episode 8 and what we've seen in the Episode 9 trailer, I think it fairly likely that Palpatine was actually either possessing Snoke or at least subtly influencing him, and really he was just another sort of tool of the true Dark Lord, Sheev himself. I'd like to do a whole video on that, but maybe in the future. Also, just because a lot of you have asked, I'm not ready to fully declare myself back from break, but I am starting to work on videos, and I'm on social media, and I'm streaming, so really, what's the difference? As always, this has been your host, EckhartsLadder. Have a great day, be safe, and of course, may the Force be with you.